white bread now is what you're lining up for us.
It's the same recipe, except I'm using lard. So I'm using 1.5 pounds of strong white flour, an ounce of lard, 2 to 3 teaspoons of salt. Now, the salt really is rather important. It seems a lot, but you do need it, so I'm only about 2.5.
They're quite generous ones, actually, aren't they?
That's right. And now to the yeast liquid, which I've already frothed up, as we did it before. Hand hot water, 15 fluid ounces, 3/4 of a pint, a teaspoonful of sugar to feed the yeast, and 1/2 ounce of dried yeast. And if you're using fresh yeast, you'd have it lukewarm and you'd just stir in the fresh yeast.
Right.
And I'm going to do this by machine. First of all, you want to rub the fat into the flour.
Does it do just as good a job in the machine?
It does it very efficiently, and it's very good. So you first of all rub the fat into the flour to begin with, and that isn't quite rubbed in, but imagine that it is, and then add all the liquid at once.
And how long do you have to mix that for?
About 2 minutes, till it's all combined together.
I see.
Or read the instructions in the book, and then when it's all combined together, then knead it for a further 2 minutes, and you get the same action that you would be doing kneading yourself, only they do it like that.
Very good for people who perhaps haven't got the strength in their arms or whatever.
Yes, it's very good, and it's very quick for regular bread makers. And here it is already risen, so you take it out of the, when you've kneaded it, put it in a greased bag, let it double its size, 2 hours at room temperature, or say 40 minutes in a warm airing cupboard or where you have, and then take it out when it's risen.
Lops out, doesn't it?
There we are.
Incredible.
And then knead it until it's no longer sticky. Now I've got some flour in the flour dredger. That's right. I'm not really used to having a flour dredger. I usually put my hand in the bag. That's why I had that rather vague look on my face looking for it. There we are. Knead it, and this is knocking it back. The same movement.
And you continue that for?
Just a few minutes, about 3 or 4 minutes.
The same as with the other one, anyway.
And then cut it in half, because I'm going to do things with it, which is half the fun of homemade bread. So half I'm going to put to one side for the pizza, and then I'm going to make 12 rolls with this amount. And somebody only yesterday was saying, well, how do you know to get it even? I cut it like a cake, and then I cut each one into 3.
So you're getting 12 out of that
That's
half of the lot of yeast. Right.
So I'm just going to start kneading. Now you can either knead your rolls like this.
But then do you have lots of little bits and
I
not
find
have that
it better.
complete
That's
roundness?
the usual way. Yes. Then if you do it like that, I find it much better. Onto a 7 by 11 about sized tin.
So you do it just like that? You don't do that initial sort of all the folding in of the bits?
I think it's much easier this way. Press right down, not too much flour on the table, and put them on the tray. That one's a bit bigger, I wasn't very even. And then put 12 on the tray, and then let them swell. Put a bag over them and let them swell until they're like these over here, Judy.
Yes.
And then they will swell to that size, and then you can brush them with milk if you like. Bake them at 425, that's number 7, for about 30 minutes.
And then what about freezing them? If you freeze them, presumably you'd keep them in the block?
That's right.
Like that.
And so take them out of the tin, cool them on a wire rack, and they want to be nice and brown underneath, and freeze them in a polythene bag.
Ideal, actually, just in time for Jubilee presentations and all sorts of things. You can have parties and have loads of bread ready.
And you can make garlic bread too, if you wish.
I love
Now
that.
to the other half, and let's make a pizza from it. So those I'd complete, cover with a polythene bag. The pizza, I'm using half the dough. Just press it out. No rolling pin. Now, this is half the dough. If you're very figure conscious, as we are from time to time, you can even use half that amount again and
Just
make
want
a
a thin
very
layer.
thin one.
But you don't skimp yourself, I know, on the filling, which I think is what is the essence of a good pizza, isn't it? If you can put a jolly good lot of stuff on the top.
Yes, now that's sort of semi-round. You could do it to the oblong if you wish. And to the topping, I've already made it, Judy. I've fried an onion in this pan in a little oil, a large onion, and I fried it until it was pale golden. I then tipped into the pan a 14-ounce can of tomatoes and the juice, and pepper and salt and a dash of sugar. And I boiled it until all the liquid had been driven off. I'm adding a little chopped marjoram. That's this herb here. It's nice and leafy now, and it goes very well with tomatoes. You could use basil. Tip that onto the top when it's slightly cool. Spread it over. And you can see I am being generous with it because the bought pizzas are skimpy. I've never found one that's got enough topping.
Neither have I, actually. They're very dry, I think.
Then about 2 ounces, I've got about 3 here, of cheese.
Any cheese, that's cheddar, is it?
Yes, and often you can get it from already grated in a delicatessen shop. They do it for you with the ends of cheese. And then over the top, you can put a lattice of anchovy. Now this makes it a real pizza, but anchovies are quite expensive. I noticed it was about 20 pence a tin, so unless it's for something like Jubilee, maybe you want to just make it without anchovies.
Anyway, it decorates them very nicely.
Yes. And then
perhaps they're a bit strong for some people.
Then you can put sliced olives, if you wish, over the top through the holes. And then you want to cover it with a polythene bag, 30 minutes rising.
Good.
And then if you've got little bits left of dough, just little pieces.
You've got another idea for those, haven't you?
Just little pieces, just broken off. You can make your own tiny, tiny donuts, just with little pieces that are left. Drop them into fat and let them fry. Now the fat it takes about 2 minutes in there. When they're done, they want to be that colour. That one's going to take 2 minutes. When they're done, drop them straight into cinnamon sugar, that's caster sugar, with a little cinnamon, and sprinkle it over. And you have tiny things, little baby donuts that everybody likes, and have them straight for tea.
Oh, I can imagine they're absolutely delicious, mouth-watering.
Well, it's a good way of using up the end, because big donuts can be a bit solid.
Well, Mary, you've given us some great recipes today.